Beloved, tonight is not an ordinary night. This is not just the end of a calendar year. It is a spiritual intersection. Moments like these are gates. What you do at a gate determines what enters and what is denied access. Many people cross into New Year's carrying old battles, old tears, old delays, and unfinished cycles. Not because God is absent, but because the right prayers were never spoken at the right time. Tonight, we are not rushing into tomorrow. We are closing yesterday properly, because when seasons change without spiritual closure, the past leaks into the future. Tonight, we will speak. Tonight, we will pray. Tonight, we will command. This is the night to end the year with authority, not fear, with revelation, not emotion, with power, not regret. Lift your voice, lift your heart, and engage your spirit, because the prayers you pray now will echo into the year ahead. The power of endings is a spiritual truth many people ignore, yet it governs seasons, outcomes, and continuity in life. Every ending is not merely the conclusion of time. It is a statement of authority. What you allow to end carelessly often returns forcefully. Endings are gates, and gates are regulated by spiritual laws. When a season closes without discernment, the residue of that season leaks into the next one. This is why many people enter a new year physically but remain trapped spiritually in the previous one. They change dates, calendars, and routines, yet nothing truly changes, because what should have been concluded was never addressed. Endings are moments of divine evaluation. Heaven pauses, not because God is confused, but because man must align. There are things God will not carry forward for you. Some burdens must be laid down deliberately, not accidentally. If endings were automatic, cycles would not exist. Patterns repeat because conclusions were never enforced. Spiritual endings require intention, awareness, and authority. You must recognize when a chapter has served its purpose and must not be allowed to continue influencing your future. Many delays in destiny are not caused by lack of prayer, but by unfinished spiritual business. You prayed for increase, but never closed the door to waste. You asked for clarity, but never ended compromise. You demanded speed, but kept entertaining distractions. The power of endings lies in the courage to confront what must stop. God often waits for man to agree that something has expired. Until agreement is reached, continuation is permitted. Endings are also proofs of maturity. A child struggles to let go. Maturity understands timing. There are relationships that were assigned for a season, not a lifetime. There are struggles that were permitted for training, not for permanence. When you fail to discern timing, you turn lessons into prisons. The power of endings teaches discernment. Knowing when grace has completed its assignment. Holding on beyond divine timing is rebellion disguised as loyalty. Spiritually, every ending must be sealed. Nothing in the realm of the spirit truly ends because time changed. It ends because authority was exercised. This is why words matter at transitions. Silence at the end of a season is permission for repetition. What you don't confront will assume you have accepted it. What you don't reject will assume you have authorized it. Endings demand vocal alignment, declarations that say, this will not follow me. There are endings that bring grief and endings that bring relief, but both are necessary. Comforting endings are easy. Painful endings require strength. Yet pain does not mean error. Sometimes pain is proof that something mattered, not proof that it should continue. God often ends things that work because they would hinder what is coming. Comfort can become captivity if it overstays its relevance. The power of endings is also connected to restoration. You cannot recover what was lost if you are still emotionally living where it was taken. Closure is not forgetting. Closure is positioning. Until a chapter is closed, the next chapter cannot open fully. Destiny demands space. God does not pour new wine into old structures, not because the wine is weak, but because the structure cannot sustain it. Endings make room for increase. Spiritual warfare intensifies at endings because transitions expose access points. The enemy fights endings because he survives on continuity. As long as nothing ends, nothing changes. Cycles are his comfort zone. But when a man understands endings, he disrupts patterns. He breaks agreements he never knew he made. He steps out of repetition into progression. Endings also require gratitude. You don't end seasons with bitterness, you end them with wisdom. Honor what taught you, even if it wounded you. Honor what strengthened you, even if it stretched you. Gratitude disarms resentment. And resentment is one of the strongest cords tying people to expired seasons. When gratitude replaces bitterness, release becomes possible. To end well is to govern well. You don't rush endings, but you don't delay them either. Timing is everything. When heaven signals completion, obedience demands response. Those who ignore endings eventually face forced transitions. And forced transitions are often painful. Voluntary endings preserve dignity. Delayed endings invite pressure. The power of endings is the power to say, this chapter has finished its assignment in my life. It is the authority to close doors without fear, to move forward without guilt, and to trust God without nostalgia. Those who master endings step into new seasons lighter, clearer, and stronger. They don't drag yesterday into tomorrow. They cross over free, aligned, and prepared for what is ahead. Spiritual accounting is the discipline of honest evaluation before God, where a man reviews his life not emotionally, but truthfully. It is the ability to stand in the light of divine wisdom and ask what has produced fruit and what has only consumed time. Without spiritual accounting, growth becomes assumed rather than proven. Many people believe they are progressing simply because time has passed. Yet heaven measures advancement by alignment, obedience, and transformation, not by duration. Every season deposits something into a person, and every person carries a spiritual balance. Some seasons add strength, clarity, and wisdom. Others drain virtue, focus, and discipline. If you never pause to account, you may carry deficits into a new season and wonder why momentum is slow. God does not ignore imbalance. He invites reflection so correction can occur. Spiritual accounting is not condemnation, it is calibration. It reveals what must be strengthened, what must be corrected, and what must be abandoned. One of the greatest dangers of neglecting spiritual accounting is self-deception. When evaluation is avoided, excuses become explanations. Prayerlessness is blamed on busyness. Disobedience is renamed patience. And compromise is justified as wisdom. Over time, conscience becomes dull and sensitivity to correction weakens. Spiritual accounting restores sensitivity. It sharpens discernment and reawakens hunger for truth. It reminds a man that God cannot be deceived, but he can be approached honestly. Spiritual accounting also exposes patterns. Is the same struggle repeating every year? Are the same prayers being offered with no corresponding obedience? Are the same lessons appearing in different forms? Patterns reveal agreements. When something persists, it is often sustained by permission, ignorance, or tolerance. Accounting helps identify these hidden permissions. You cannot break what you refuse to acknowledge. Light must first expose before power can remove. This process demands humility. Pride resists review because review threatens image. Many would rather preserve reputation than pursue transformation. Yet God works with the humble, not the impressive. Spiritual accounting requires admitting weakness, not broadcasting strength. It is in private honesty that public victories are prepared. What you judge in yourself will not be judged against you. God grants mercy to those who take responsibility. Spiritual accounting is also the gateway to restoration. When God restores, he does not simply return what was lost. He reorders priorities. But restoration without evaluation often leads to repeated loss. God asks questions not because he lacks information, but because answers reposition the heart. When a man acknowledges where he went wrong, wisdom is deposited to prevent recurrence. Accounting converts failure into instruction. Many prayers fail because they are disconnected from responsibility. People ask God to change outcomes while refusing to change inputs. They desire different results but maintain the same habits, relationships, and mindsets. Spiritual accounting bridges prayer and action. It aligns desire with discipline. It transforms prayer from complaint into cooperation. Heaven responds when man accepts his role in the process. Spiritual accounting also involves acknowledging divine interventions. Not all escape. As were accidental, and not all delays were attacks. Some things didn't work because God preserved you. Some doors didn't open because destruction was behind them. Accounting recognizes both mercy and mistakes. Gratitude for protection is as important as repentance for error. When gratitude is missing, entitlement grows, and entitlement blinds discernment. This evaluation is not a one-time event, it is a lifestyle. Those who grow consistently are those who review regularly. They don't wait for crises to ask questions. They don't wait for endings to assess beginnings. They understand that accountability precedes authority. God entrusts more to those who manage well what they already have. Accounting proves readiness. Spiritual accounting prepares a man for transition. When seasons change, unexamined baggage becomes heavy. The future demands focus, and focus requires freedom from unresolved issues. By accounting, you enter new seasons lighter and wiser. You carry lessons, not wounds. You carry insight, not confusion. In spiritual accounting, truth is not feared, it is welcomed. Correction is not rejected, it is embraced. The goal is not to feel bad, but to become better. When a man aligns with truth, grace empowers change. What is exposed can be healed. What is acknowledged can be corrected. Those who practice spiritual accounting end cycles intentionally and begin new seasons intelligently. They don't repeat mistakes blindly. They move forward with understanding. And when heaven sees a heart that is honest, teachable, and aligned, it releases grace for lasting transformation. Closing legal doors is a spiritual responsibility that many ignore. Yet, it determines whether battles end or repeat. In the realm of the spirit, nothing operates randomly. Access is granted through agreements, permissions, and tolerances. When a door is open, influence flows. When it remains unaddressed, conflict continues. Many people pray for victory while unknowingly sustaining access points that invite opposition. Spiritual warfare is not only about resistance, it is about regulation. Legal doors are not always opened intentionally. Some are inherited through patterns, environments, or associations. Others are open through ignorance, compromise, or prolonged disobedience. A door does not need enthusiasm to stay open. Neglect is enough. This is why issues persist even when prayer increases. Prayer without correction confronts symptoms, not causes. Closing a legal door requires identification, repentance, and authoritative renunciation. In the spiritual realm, legality matters. Power does not override law. Power enforces law. When a door is legally open, force alone cannot close it. Heaven respects order. This is why confession precedes deliverance and alignment precedes authority. When responsibility is ignored, power is restrained. God does not violate his own principles to answer prayers that contradict them. Many people misunderstand grace, assuming it covers responsibility. Grace empowers obedience. It does not excuse disobedience. When grace is abused, doors remain open under the illusion of freedom. True grace brings clarity, conviction, and correction. It exposes what must change and strengthens the will to change it. Closing doors is not punishment, it is protection. Legal doors are often sustained by patterns rather than single events. A habit tolerated becomes a gateway reinforced. A mindset entertained becomes a stronghold defended. Repeated compromise builds structure. Over time, what was once a weakness becomes a system. Breaking such systems requires patience, consistency, and truth. There are doors that close instantly and others that close progressively, but all require cooperation. Relationships are one of the most common legal doors. Who you allow access to your life determines what has access to your destiny. Associations shape permissions. When boundaries are absent, influence is uncontrolled. Not everyone who has access deserves influence. Discernment is the wisdom to separate connection from permission. Some doors are closed not by distance, but by redefining access. Another overlooked door is the door of words. Declarations spoken in emotion can create long-term agreements. Words carry authority, especially repeated ones. Speaking defeat, fear, or limitation may feel harmless, but it builds consent. Closing the door of words requires intentional speech. You must withdraw agreements you made unconsciously. Silence in the face of negative confession is not neutrality, it is endorsement. Unforgiveness is also a legal door that many refuse to close. It feels justified, but it binds the offended more than the offender. Holding resentment sustains spiritual access. Forgiveness is not approval of wrongdoing, it is removal of permission. When forgiveness is released, authority is restored. Until then, prayer struggles to flow freely. There are also doors opened by delayed obedience. Partial obedience is still disobedience. When instruction is known but postponed, access remains. God's instructions are not suggestions, they are safeguards. Delay weakens protection. Closing this door requires immediate response once light is given. Obedience repairs breaches faster than prolonged prayer without action. Spiritual doors must be sealed with truth and maintained with discipline. Closing a door once is not enough if the lifestyle keeps reopening it. Discipline sustains deliverance. Without discipline, freedom becomes temporary. God's intention is not to constantly rescue, but to establish stability. Stability comes when principles are practiced consistently. Closing legal doors is not about fear of attack. It is about stewardship of authority. You cannot control what you refuse to manage. Authority grows where responsibility is accepted. When doors are closed, peace increases, clarity returns, and progress accelerates. Resistance weakens not because the enemy left voluntarily, but because access was denied. When a man learns to close legal doors, he stops fighting unnecessary battles. Energy is redirected toward growth, purpose, and impact. The spiritual atmosphere changes. What once resisted now aligns. What once delayed now releases. The life becomes ordered, not chaotic. Closing legal doors is an act of wisdom and maturity. It is the recognition that victory is not only about strength, but about alignment. Those who govern access govern outcomes. When doors are closed rightly, destiny moves freely, and the future unfolds without constant warfare. Transitions are spiritual realities before they ever become physical experiences. Every movement from one season to another is governed first in the unseen realm before it manifests in time and space. This is why some people change environments, positions, or years, yet remain internally unchanged. They moved physically, but they never transition spiritually. Until the spirit realigns, the body only relocates. In the spiritual realm, seasons are not defined by dates, but by assignments. A season ends when its purpose is fulfilled, and a new season begins when capacity is prepared. Transitions, therefore, demand discernment. When discernment is absent, people misinterpret pressure as attack or comfort as approval. Not every struggle is resistance, and not every peace is permission. Understanding transitions protects a person from misreading divine signals. Prayer is the language of transitions because prayer aligns the heart with heaven's agenda. Without prayer, transitions become dangerous because they expose unprepared areas. Change amplifies whatever is already present. If discipline is weak, change magnifies disorder. If clarity is absent, change multiplies confusion. Prayer stabilizes the soul so that change does not become collapse. One of the greatest mistakes people make during transitions is relying on past strategies. What worked in the previous season may not work in the next. Grace is seasonal. Methods are temporary. Principles are eternal. Those who fail to pray through transitions attempt to apply expired strategies to new demands. This produces frustration and delay. Prayer grants updated instruction and fresh alignment. Transitions also test identity. When roles shift, titles change, or environments are altered, the question of who you are becomes louder. Without spiritual grounding, identity becomes dependent on position. Prayer re-anchors identity in purpose rather than placement. It reminds a person that value is not assigned by seasons, but by calling. This stability prevents insecurity during change. Spiritually, transitions are moments of vulnerability. Old protections lift, while new coverings are not yet fully established. This is why resistance often intensifies at the point of change. The enemy targets transitions because they are moments of openness. Prayer becomes a shield, sealing the individual during the shift. Without it, exposure leads to unnecessary battles. Transitions also involve separation. Not everything and not everyone can move forward with you. Some connections expire not because of offense, but because of assignment. Prayer helps discern what must remain and what must be released. Without prayer, people either cling to what should be left behind or abandon what should be carried forward. Both errors create imbalance. Another danger in transitions is haste. Excitement about what is next can cause neglect of closure. People rush into all new seasons without honoring the previous one. Unresolved matters create spiritual drag. Prayer ensures proper closure. It brings understanding, gratitude, and release. Closure is not nostalgia, it is order. When closure is ignored, repetition becomes likely. Transitions also require recalibration of expectations. What God demands in one season may increase or shift in the next. Without prayer, people resist these demands, assuming opposition rather than elevation. Growth often feels like pressure before it feels like promotion. Prayer reframes pressure as preparation. It helps the heart submit to new levels of responsibility. Spiritual transitions are not optional. They happen whether acknowledged or not. The difference lies in outcome. Those who pray through transitions grow with them. Those who ignore them struggle within them. Prayer does not stop change, it guides it. It positions a person to respond rather than react. In transitions, silence is costly. Waiting without prayer is not patience, it is vulnerability. The spirit must be engaged deliberately. Prayer is how alignment is maintained when familiarity is removed. It becomes the compass when landmarks change. Those who honor transition spiritually experience continuity of favor. What ended does not haunt them, and what begins does not overwhelm them. They move forward with clarity, peace, and strength. Transitions become bridges, not battles. Understanding that transitions are spiritual redefines movement. It shifts focus from survival to stewardship. When prayer leads transitions, destiny unfolds with precision. Change no longer threatens, it advances purpose. Restoration of lost ground is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful spiritual realities. Many people assume that what is lost is gone forever, yet loss in itself is not final. Abandonment is. Ground is only permanently lost when it is surrendered without resistance or understanding. In the spiritual realm, loss often signals conflict, not conclusion. What appears stolen in time can be recovered through authority when alignment is restored. Lost ground can be time, opportunities, relationships, clarity, confidence, discipline, or spiritual sensitivity. Not all loss is caused by opposition. Some loss is the result of ignorance, delay, or misplaced priorities. However, the cause of loss does not determine the possibility of restoration. What matters is posture. Heaven responds to responsibility, not regret. Regret mourns loss, responsibility reclaims it. One of the greatest barriers to restoration is shame. Shame convinces a person that loss disqualifies them from recovery. Yet shame was never designed by God. It is a tool to keep people hidden from the very help they need. When shame governs the heart, prayer becomes distant and faith weakens. Restoration begins when shame is replaced with humility. Humility acknowledges loss without self-condemnation and invites grace to intervene. Restoration requires spiritual authority, not emotional desire. Wanting things back is not the same as qualifying for their return. Authority is established through repentance, obedience, and alignment. Repentance restores standing. Obedience restores trust. Alignment restores flow. When these are present, restoration becomes lawful. God restores within order, not chaos. There are losses that occur gradually. Ground is not always taken in one moment. It is often conceded over time. Small compromises, delayed obedience, neglected disciplines, these create erosion. Restoration, therefore, may also be progressive. God often rebuilds slowly to ensure stability. Immediate restoration without maturity leads to repeated loss. God values sustainability over speed. Restoration also demands a new mindset. You cannot reclaim lost ground with the same thinking that lost it. Wisdom must be upgraded. Discernment must be sharpened. Boundaries must be strengthened. Restoration is not a return to the past. It is a recovery with insight. What is restored comes back improved, guarded, and refined. Spiritual restoration often begins with clarity. When vision returns, direction follows. Many people pray for restoration of results while neglecting restoration of focus. Yet focus governs outcomes. God restores sight before he restores possession. When a person sees clearly again, stewardship improves and increase becomes safe. Another dimension of restoration is courage. Loss weakens confidence. Even when opportunities return, fear may prevent engagement. Restoration includes healing of the heart. God does not just return what was lost, he strengthens the vessel to carry it. Without inner healing, restored blessings feel threatening rather than empowering. Restoration also requires patience with process. Comparing recovery speed with others breeds frustration. Each journey is unique. What matters is movement, not measurement. God restores according to purpose, not pressure. When impatience controls the heart, restoration feels delayed even when progress is occurring. There are losses that God allows to expose dependency. Sometimes ground is lost so that trust can be redirected. When restoration comes, it often comes with a new dependence on God rather than on systems, people, or familiarity. This dependence preserves what is restored. Restoration is not merely personal. It often impacts others. When one person recovers lost ground, generational patterns shift. Future losses are prevented. Wisdom is transferred. The restored become protectors, not just beneficiaries. Their testimony becomes instruction. Restoration of lost ground proves that time does not have the final voice. What was delayed and be redeemed. What was taken can be recovered. What was wasted can be transformed. When alignment meets authority, loss bows. Those who pursue restoration with understanding do not rush it or resist it. They cooperate with grace. They rebuild with intention. They guard what returns. And when restoration is complete, the ground regained is stronger than before, secured by wisdom and sustained by discipline. Breaking cycles is one of the most critical spiritual responsibilities a person can embrace, because cycles do not stop on their own. They are sustained by repetition, agreement, and unaddressed patterns. A cycle is not merely something that happens again. It is something that has been allowed to continue. Until it is confronted with understanding and authority, it assumes permission to repeat itself. Many people confuse cycles with fate. They assume repeated struggles are destiny rather than signals. But cycles are not destiny, they are messages. They reveal unresolved issues demanding attention. When the same pain, delay, or failure keeps appearing in different forms, it is not coincidence. It is an invitation to discern what has not been addressed at the root. Cycles thrive in ignorance. What you don't understand, you cannot interrupt. This is why education alone is not enough. Revelation is required. Revelation exposes the cause behind the repetition. Without revelation, people fight symptoms endlessly. They change environments, routines, or relationships, yet the pattern follows them because the internal structure that supports it remains intact. Breaking cycles requires honesty. Many cycles are sustained by denial. It is easier to blame external forces than to examine internal agreements. Yet freedom begins where excuses end. Taking responsibility does not mean taking blame for everything, but it does mean acknowledging where change is required. When responsibility is accepted, authority is restored. Cycles often pass through generations. Patterns of fear, poverty, instability, broken relationships, or compromise can be inherited through exposure and modeling. What is normalized becomes repeated. Breaking such cycles requires conscious resistance. You must decide that repetition ends with you. This decision must move beyond emotion into discipline. Desire initiates change, but discipline sustains it. Prayer is essential in breaking cycles, but prayer without adjustment prolongs struggle. Many pray against what they continue to practice. Prayer must be partnered with obedience. When behavior contradicts prayer, cycles remain intact. True prayer realigns actions, not just words. It empowers change from within. Cycles are also reinforced by mindset. The way a person thinks about themselves, God, and life shapes their expectations. When expectations are low, repetition feels normal. A renewed mind disrupts cycles because it introduces new possibilities. When belief changes, behavior follows, and when behavior changes, outcomes shift. Breaking cycles often feels uncomfortable because it demands unfamiliar responses. Doing what you have always done produces what you have always seen. Change requires courage to act differently, even when it feels unnatural. Comfort is often the enemy of transformation. Growth demands temporary discomfort for lasting freedom. Another reason cycles persist is emotional attachment. Pain can become familiar, and familiarity can feel safe. Some people unconsciously prefer known pain over unknown freedom. Breaking cycles requires willingness to let go of identity formed around struggle. You are not your pain. You are not your past. When identity shifts, cycles lose their anchor. Cycles also resist being broken because they benefit something. Sometimes they benefit fear, pride, or avoidance. As long as a cycle provides an excuse not to grow, it will be protected internally. Breaking cycles means confronting what the cycle has been shielding you from. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but necessary. Authority to break cycles grows through consistency. One moment of resolve is not enough. Cycles are broken by sustained alignments. Small daily decisions matter. Consistency dismantles repetition. Over time, what once felt automatic loses power. Breaking cycles does not mean perfection. It means persistence. There may be resistance, but resistance is not failure. The fact that resistance appears often means progress is happening. Cycles fight hardest when they are losing control. Persistence ensures victory. When a cycle is broken, clarity follows. Energy once consumed by repetition becomes available for growth. Life feels lighter, not because challenges disappear, but because unnecessary battles end. Focus sharpens. Purpose accelerates. Breaking cycles is not just personal, it is prophetic. It alters the future. What stops with you does not proceed to others. Your decision becomes a line of demarcation. Freedom gained becomes legacy given. Those who break cycles step into life with authority rather than survival. They respond instead of react. They build instead of repeat. They move forward with wisdom. And once a cycle is truly broken, it does not return disguised. It loses permission permanently. Alignment with divine timing is one of the greatest keys to sustained progress, yet it is often misunderstood. Many people desire speed without synchronization, acceleration without direction, and results without rhythm. Divine timing is not about delay or haste. It is about accuracy. When timing is correct, effort produces results with minimal resistance. When timing is wrong, even great effort feels heavy and unproductive. Time in the spiritual sense is an OT, merely measured by clocks and calendars. It is measured by readiness. A season opens when preparation is complete. This is why two people can pray the same prayers yet experience different outcomes. Heaven responds not only to desire, but to capacity. Capacity is built through obedience, discipline, and alignment. Without capacity, timing remains closed. One of the greatest frustrations people experience is moving ahead of time. When actions precede authorization, progress becomes stressful. Opportunities arrive, but peace is absent. Success feels fragile because it was entered prematurely. Divine timing protects as much as it promotes. What arrives in time comes with grace to sustain it. What is forced arrives without covering. Equally dangerous is lagging behind time. Delayed obedience can be as harmful as premature action. When instruction is given and ignored, momentum is lost. Doors do not remain open indefinitely. Divine timing involves responsiveness. Obedience must be prompt. When delay becomes habit, sensitivity weakens and opportunities pass unnoticed. Alignment with divine timing requires discernment. Not every open door is an invitation, and not every closed door is rejection. Discernment interprets signs correctly. Without it, people misread pressure as attack and ease as approval. Sometimes resistance means wait, and sometimes it means push. Prayer sharpens discernment so decisions align with heaven's pace. Divine timing also demands patience. Patience is not inactivity, it is preparation without anxiety. It is the discipline of waiting without wasting. Those aligned with timing use waiting seasons to build skill, character, and depth. When the door opens, they enter ready, not rushed. Impatience often produces shallow success that cannot endure pressure. Another element of timing is sequence. God works in order. Skipping steps creates imbalance. Many want outcomes without process, crowns without crosses, visibility without formation. Yet sequence protects stability. Each stage builds what the next requires. Alignment means respecting order, even when it feels slow. Skip stages often resurface later as weaknesses. Divine timing is also connected to relationships. Some connections are time-bound. Meeting the right people at the wrong time can still produce harm. Timing determines compatibility. When alignment is right, relationships contribute. When it is wrong, they distract. Wisdom discerns when to engage and when to wait. Fear often disrupts timing. Fear of missing out pushes people into premature decisions. Fear of failure keeps others stuck in hesitation. Both extremes create misalignment. Faith anchors timing. Faith trusts that what is meant will arrive, and what arrives must be stewarded properly. Faith removes anxiety from waiting and pressure from action. Alignment with divine timing does not eliminate effort, it optimizes it. Effort applied at the right time multiplies impact. The same seed planted in the wrong season will not grow, no matter how valuable it is. Timing determines productivity. When seasons are discerned, work becomes fruitful rather than exhausting. Divine timing also involves surrender. Control must be released. Trying to manipulate outcomes often delays them. When surrender replaces striving, clarity increases. God's pace becomes the guide, not emotion or comparison. Comparison is one of the greatest enemies of timing. Measuring progress against others creates pressure to move out of season. Each path is unique. Those aligned with divine timing experience peace even in progress. They move with confidence, not panic. They know when to act and when to wait. They don't force doors and they don't fear closed ones. Their decisions carry weight because they are timely. Ali. Alignment with divine timing ensures longevity. What begins in time endures beyond excitement. It grows steadily, withstands pressure, and fulfills purpose. Those who understand timing don't rush destiny, they walk into it prepared. And when the moment arrives, they recognize it, respond, and step forward with authority. Spiritual separation is a necessary principle for progression, yet it is often misunderstood and resisted. Many people assume separation means isolation or rejection, but in the spiritual sense, separation is alignment. It is the wisdom to discern what belongs to a season and what must not cross over into the next. Not everything that started with you is a sign to finish with you. When separation is ignored, congestion occurs and destiny becomes burdened by excess weight. Separation begins in the mind before it manifests in life. Long before people separate physically, they disconnect internally. When clarity increases, tolerance decreases. What was once acceptable begins to feel heavy. This is not rebellion, it is discernment awakening. Growth changes appetite. When the spirit matures, it refuses what once satisfied it. Ignoring this signal leads to frustration and inner conflict. One of the reasons separation is difficult is emotional attachment. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort resists change. Yet comfort is not always confirmation. Many remain connected to people, habits, or mindsets long after grace has lifted because letting go feels painful. But pain does not mean error. Sometimes pain is the price of obedience. Separation hurts because it breaks dependency, not because it destroys purpose. Spiritual separation is not about superiority, it is about stewardship. Different seasons require different environments. What nourished you once may contaminate you later. Separation preserves purity of focus. Without it, vision becomes diluted. You cannot move forward effectively while dragging what was meant to stay behind. Another reason separation is resisted is fear of loneliness. People assume that releasing old connections will lead to emptiness. Yet spiritual separation does not create voids, it creates space. And space invites provision. God fills what he empties when the emptying is done in obedience. Holding on out of fear blocks replacement. Trust is required to release. Separation also applies to internal patterns. Not all separation is external. Some things that must be left behind are thoughts, attitudes, and identities. Old narratives of failure, limitation, or fear must not follow into new seasons. If mindset remains unchanged, environment change is ineffective. Internal separation prepares the soul for new responsibilities. Spiritual separation protects direction. Influence shapes movement. When conflicting influences remain, Direction becomes unclear. You cannot hear clearly when too many voices are speaking. Separation silences unnecessary noise. It sharpens hearing. It restores sensitivity to divine instruction. Without separation, confusion increases. Separation is also an act of honor. You honor what was by releasing it properly. Holding on too long dishonors both the past and the future. It turns lessons into chains. Proper separation allows gratitude without attachment. You can appreciate what a season gave you without demanding it stay. There's also resistance to separation because of guilt. People feel responsible for maintaining connections beyond their assignment. But responsibility without instruction becomes burden. You are not called to carry what God has released you from. Separation clarifies responsibility. It restores balance between compassion and obedience. Spiritually, separation is a form of warfare. It cuts off access. Many attacks persist because access remains open through continued association or tolerance. When separation occurs, peace often follows. Resistance weakens not because effort increased, but because permission was removed. Separation does not mean hostility. It means boundaries. Boundaries protect purpose. They define what has access and what does not. Without boundaries, separation fails. Boundaries allow love without compromise and connection without contamination. Those who embrace spiritual separation experience lightness. Energy once drained by maintenance is redirected toward growth. Focus sharpens. Momentum increases. Life becomes ordered. Separation simplifies direction. Spiritual separation is proof of maturity. Immaturity clings, maturity releases. Immaturity fears loss, maturity values alignment. Those who understand separation do not wait for conflict to force distance. They respond to clarity. When separation is honored, transition becomes smooth. What is ahead receives full attention. The past loses its pull. You move forward unencumbered, not because the past was wrong, but because it is complete. Spiritual separation ensures that what enters the new season does so by assignment, not by habit. It is the wisdom to say, this belongs to yesterday, and yesterday has ended. Those who practice separation step into the future, lighter, clearer, and ready for what lies ahead. Prophetic declarations are not motivational statements or emotional affirmations. They are words spoken from alignment with spiritual authority. In the realm of the spirit, words are containers of power. What is declared with understanding establishes direction, creates boundaries, and activates outcomes. Silence at critical moments does not produce neutrality. It produces vulnerability. When words are not spoken deliberately, circumstances speak instead. Declarations shape reality because creation responds to voice. Everything that exists was framed by words, and life continues to respond to spoken authority. When a person understands this, they become careful not only about what they say, but about what they fail to say. The absence of declaration at transition points often allows confusion, fear, and repetition to dominate. Prophetic declarations interrupt uncertainty by establishing divine order. One of the reasons declarations fail is misalignment. Words spoken without alignment lack authority. Authority flows from obedience, not volume. Shouting does not replace submission. When the heart is aligned with truth, even quiet declarations carry weight. Heaven responds to alignment before it responds to sound. This is why some declarations shift atmospheres instantly, while others feel empty. Prophetic declarations are most powerful at thresholds, transitions, endings, beginnings, and moments of change are gates that respond to voice. What is spoken at a gate determines what enters. This is why careless speech during transitions is costly. Fearful words authorize fearful outcomes. Confused speech invites disorder. Intentional declarations establish clarity and protection. Declarations also function as spiritual boundaries. They define what is permitted and what is denied access. When a person declares with authority, they are not begging for change, they are enforcing order. This requires confidence rooted in truth, not arrogance. Confidence comes from knowing what has been granted. When a person speaks from that knowledge, resistance weakens. Another vital aspect of declarations is consistency. A single statement does not undo years of contrary speech. Patterns of language create patterns of experience. This is not superstition, it is alignment. When words consistently agree with truth, the environment adjusts. Over time, repeated declarations dismantle long-standing limitations. Company insistency trains the atmosphere to respond. Prophetic declarations also reprogram the mind. Many battles are sustained internally before they manifest externally. When truth is declared repeatedly, it replaces lies that were accepted unconsciously. Faith grows as hearing increases, and hearing increases through spoken truth. Declaring truth aloud reinforces belief. What is believed becomes lived. Declarations must also be specific. Vague words produce vague outcomes. Clarity strengthens authority. Knowing what you are declaring and why matters. Precision directs power. General hope inspires, but specific declarations establish. This is why understanding precedes effective declaration. Knowledge sharpens language. There is also timing involved. Declaring the right thing at the wrong time can still create resistance. Sensitivity matters. Prophetic declarations are not mechanical, they are relational. They flow from listening as much as from speaking. When a person listens first, their declarations carry divine rhythm. Another dimension of prophetic declaration is agreement. When a person declares truth, they are aligning themselves with heaven's perspective. Agreement multiplies power. Resistance thrives in disagreement. When internal agreement is achieved, external alignment follows. Declaring truth is an act of choosing sides spiritually. Declarations also confront fear. Fear survives on unspoken assumptions. When fear is confronted verbally, its influence weakens. Declaring courage does not deny fear, it overrules it. Authority does not wait for fear to disappear, it speaks despite it. This is how momentum is restored. Prophetic declarations do not ignore reality, they redefine it. They acknowledge circumstances but refuse their final authority. They place divine truth above temporary conditions. This is not denial, it is governance. Governance decides outcomes rather than reacting to them. When declarations are absent, people drift. When declarations are present, direction stabilizes. Life begins to respond rather than resist. Opportunities align, focus sharpens, peace increases. This is not coincidence, it is order being restored. Those who understand prophetic declarations do not speak carelessly. They honor words as tools of construction. They speak intentionally, especially at endings and beginnings. They do not wait for feelings to change before declaring truth. They allow declarations to lead feelings into alignment. Prophetic declarations shape the future because they establish expectation, direction, and permission. What is declared with authority becomes a pathway. When a person learns to declare rightly, they stop being passive observers of life and become active participants in its direction. Their words no longer echo fear or confusion. They echo purpose, clarity, and alignment. Entering a new season or closing a chapter is not merely a matter of changing dates or making resolutions. It is a spiritual process that demands awareness, authority, and intentionality. Every ending, every loss, every cycle, and every transition carries lessons, opportunities, and responsibilities. Ignoring them allows repetition, compromise, and unnecessary resistance to follow into the future. But when the principles of spiritual alignment are applied, Through careful accounting, closing legal doors, breaking cycles, honoring transitions, reclaiming lost ground, embracing separation, and declaring prophetic authority, freedom is secured, clarity is restored, and momentum is established. Prayer is the bridge between understanding and execution. It is the channel through which alignment with divine purpose is strengthened and spiritual authority is exercised. Without it, knowledge remains theoretical and potential remains dormant. B. When prayer is combined with obedience, discernment, and timely action, it becomes a powerful instrument to shape destiny rather than merely react to circumstances. As we prepare to cross from one season to the next, it is crucial to let go of what has ended, repair what was broken, and claim what is rightfully assigned. This is a time to release regrets, renounce unproductive agreements, and establish boundaries that protect purpose. It is a time to declare with authority and faith the outcome you expect to see in your life. Words spoken in alignment with truth and authority carry weight and open doors that were previously inaccessible. The coming season responds to the preparation made in the previous one. Those who end the year prayerfully, intentionally, and with spiritual insight do not merely survive the transition. They step into it with power, clarity, and favor. What was once a cycle of delay or limitation is replaced with momentum and opportunity. What was lost is recovered with wisdom and protection. What was unresolved is confronted and properly closed. The journey from one year to the next is a demonstration of spiritual responsibility. It is proof that life responds to intentional action, guided by divine principles. As the year closes, let prayer, reflection, and declaration shape the foundation of the year ahead. Let alignment with truth, authority, and divine timing guide every step. Enter the new season not with fear, hesitation, or repetition, but with confidence, authority, and expectation, knowing that what is spoken in faith and obedience sets the trajectory for a future filled with purpose, victory, and fulfillment. The year ends, but destiny continues. Step into it intentionally, prayerfully, and boldly.